President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan is taking center stage at the U.S. Supreme Court. The plan aims to cancel $430 billion in student loan debt for more than 40 million borrowers. Opponents say the president does not have the power to implement the $500 billion change, and that the plan creates an unfair benefit for some people over others. Joining us tonight is Paul Dykewicz, Editorial Director of Eagle Financial Publications and volunteer for Catholic Charities. Paul, great to have you with us again. As far as this loan forgiveness plan goes, the court is facing really two big questions. Can you walk us through what the justices have to consider here?
Absolutely. The first key step is there needs to be a determination of whether the plaintiffs have legal standing to proceed to get relief. That's the first step. There are two cases right now that are pending that had oral arguments on Tuesday before the Supreme Court. One involves 6 states against the federal government. And the point of those states is they would be damaged. And there's one state in particular, Missouri, which has a federal loan servicing entity that would possibly not get its payments if this goes through. So that would have legitimate grounds for claiming they are injured. The other case involves 2 people who would not gain fully the benefits from the loan program. So they're complaining that they would be disadvantaged tangibly. I think that's less likely to proceed. I think the best chance is probably for the states, in part because of Missouri's claim. So those are 2 key issues that would deal with standing. Then it becomes the issue of whether the Biden administration has the legal authority to go ahead and move this program forward without congressional approval.
I know it's probably too soon to tell, but do you have any insights? I mean, do you have any idea maybe how the court may rule on this?
I think the best indicator were the questions that came from the justices. There were a number of justices, including Chief Justice John Roberts, who were pointing out that this could involve, if there is standing, something called it's a major cases doctrine. And essentially, if it's involving a large sum of money, for example, it could become a major case, which would be the kind of thing that Congress would need to approve. So that's a key point. There is grounds with that doctrine that would indicate that the Congress should be involved in an expenditure of this size, and that even if it was done on an emergency basis to help people during the COVID pandemic, that it should still go through Congress. The one thing is that people have already benefited to the tune of about $100 billion because of the delayed payments that have been going on about 3 years. There was a pause begun by the President Trump administration, and it continued with the Biden administration. And then this became an extra step right before the midterms, possibly to swing some votes with students who wanted to have their loans forgiven. But it seemed maybe that could have helped politically, and it could help further again with the next election coming up, with the president's reelection bid likely to go forward, and then the Republicans putting forth their best nominee.
Paul, we probably have about a minute or so left here, but I know you spent a lot of years with Catholic Charities, working with them and helping people to manage large amounts of debt. I'm curious, what's the Catholic answer when it comes to debt? And what's the Catholic answer in this particular case when it comes to the student loan forgiveness?
As Catholics, we're raised to try to help others in need. In this case, it also involves education, which is very important to us. Many of us have family that are immigrants, and we realize the importance of education to get an opportunity in this land of freedom. And we need to basically educate ourselves for that. The question is, how do you pay for it? For example, I have one person I had helped previously who had been incarcerated and had a son. And should he be paying for people who got an education that he couldn't receive as he struggles with his family situation? And I've got somebody I'm mentoring right now who's learning disabled. So he's not able to really get a college degree. Should he be funding people who are going to get the benefits? On the other hand, we want to help people who need help. And maybe there's a way to get that done, but usually Congress does it. In this case, the White House went around Congress and made this change right before an election. And maybe for very good intentions, maybe for political reasons too. But ultimately, I think that's going to be decided based on whether there's going to be standing for the court to allow these to move forward. And then if there is, whether the Biden administration has the authority to do it without congressional approval.
Paul, we have less than 30 seconds left. I want to get to this really quickly. You know, on a different note, it's not just people with student loans that are struggling right now. A lot of people are having a hard time financially with the cost of really just about everything rising. Do you have any advice for folks, or are there any bright spots on the horizon when it comes to this economy?
I would caution them to be careful on how much debt they take out. And especially if the interest rates are high. So what they need to do is sort of a cost-benefit analysis of whether it's going to be worth it. So whether it's going to be a student loan or anything else, is it worth putting themselves into debt, especially with an uncertainty with the economy possibly moving toward recession as economic interest rates, keep going up? That's going to tighten up credit, and it could cause problems in repaying debt if interest rates keep going up and they don't have a fixed rate loan.
Well, Paul, great advice, great insights. Thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.